Funny thing happened today. I'm Dave.
And I'm always Sean.
Together, we are Barstools and Bandtalk, one of my absolute favorite bands. And Sean put the legwork in to get this put together, but I'm so excited to talk to this gentleman tonight. Bring him on, Sean.
Well, big shout out to my good buddy Carl Anderson. I sent a note to Carl last week and said, look, we want to focus a little bit on some Toronto bands. And Carl started getting back to me with all kinds of different folks. And I think the second person that he hooked me up with was this gentleman. And game changer for me when I get into this band, just their work ethic. I remember them playing down here. A great drummer. People are going to start thinking this is a drummer show, and it's not, necessarily on purpose. But I mean, when you get a guest of this caliber, man, yeah, you take it. And so we have Darrell Millar of the Killer Dwarfs.
So excited. And there he is. How are you, brother?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
How are you guys?
We're glad to have you on the show, on the Barstools and Bandtalk show. Let me just, here's a little funny story. I want to call it 1983, maybe. Now, I was 14 years old, right? Not old enough to get in the bars, but I sit on hold. I think I hooked off school on the radio station to win the tickets and a promo pack for the Killer Dwarfs, right? So I hooked off the first two classes. I won the thing, and I couldn't get into the bar. I was too young to get into the bar, but I got that album. The first album you had, and a big poster. I had that poster on my wall. I swear to God, for 10 years. So I was a huge fan.
Was it? So that would be what album? Was that the first album?
The very first album, yeah.
All right. So was that Q104?
Q104. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Cool. That was a good radio station. I
want to say you guys were playing the Network Lounge or maybe the Misty Moon. I can't remember which bar it was, but I was too young to get in. So
I remember we did the Moon, and we also did a kind of like a fairly big club in Dartmouth. I think.
Yeah, Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Crazy Horse. Yeah. I love it down there. I'm just surprised. I don't get why we really haven't been back to the East Coast. I'm kind of baffled by that. All the touring we've done since then, and yet promoters have not brought us back to the East. We played Newfoundland 2 years ago for the first time, or 3 years ago. Sorry, this pandemic's got me just all of a sudden 2 years is cut right
out
of our lives. So that's 3 years ago now.
We might be able to help out with that, Darrell, because one of the guys that plays in our band actually works in that business. So who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you know what? We could make that happen. Really, it'd be really easy to get us to tour back down east again. Very easy.
People would love to see.
I really want to come back in Halifax and places like that. Would love to see us again. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure they would.
So I do have a question about that first album. It's going to be. I remember you guys were doing. It was probably for the same show. You were doing a promo. And you were telling a story about the drum set on the back of the cover of that album. And I don't exactly remember the backstory other than you bored it for the picture.
No, not fully true, but partially. Where that probably came from is I had to rent a drum kit to record the record.
Okay.
Actually, the drum kit on the back is my Slingerland kit. That's my kit. I purchased that kit. And what happened was it was coming in from America and it hadn't arrived yet in time to record the record, right? It hadn't arrived in time. So Doug Hill, the producer of the show, rented Gary McGracken's drum kit from Max Webster to record that record. And I'm a fan of Max Webster. I was so stoked. I was so happy that I got to play these milestone drums that are just like, they melt. They're beautiful, beautiful drum kit. So that's Gary's white milestone kit on that record. But when the kit finally came in, we used it to shoot the album cover, obviously. Right. So that's the Slingerland kit I toured with for years. I had that kit when we toured with Iron Maiden as well.
Nice.
I played those drums from 83 to about 88 when I got involved with Ludwig.
Now you talked about Max Webster before we went on, and you've been doing this for a long time, Darrell. So tell us, maybe start back from the beginning. Then where did it start for you?
Well, like a lot of us, I started out in high school, right? My high school band. Just like if you look at Alice Cooper's history, just picking him for example. He started out with that original Alice Cooper band right out of high school. Those guys, they were bros in high school. So my first band, Sphinx, was a three-piece band. And Bryce Truan, that was the first guitar player in the Killer Dwarfs on the first album. He was my guitar player in my high school band. So really, how the Dwarfs were founded is when I met Russ in Quebec City. I brought Bryce with me from Sphinx, and then Russ had a band called Oz, which weirdly enough was an Alice Cooper tribute band. I just mentioned Alice Cooper. He brought his bass player, and we merged those two bands,
Okay.
and that became the Killer Dwarfs. So I had this really good run with this Sphinx band, a 5-year run from very young age, and I was very lucky. And I basically cut my teeth in the music business in that band. All with the drums. I was a singer as well. We were kind of like a triumph, like
Okay.
I sang like 18 songs from the kit. We did 3 45-minute sets in those days. If you guys remember, it was
Oh yeah.
crazy. And we toured out west. We lived in Edmonton for a year. I had just an awesome run with that band, and
What kind of stuff are you covering?
we were doing everything from, it was a late 70s band, right? This was 1976. So we were doing everything from Foghat to Ted Nugent, Rush,
Right.
Kiss. That was the set. A couple of originals that we had written. And, but yeah, I remember we even did Cars and Toto songs.
Okay.
Because I remember like the hits of the day, our manager and the booking agents we were with, right, to get work, they would say, well, you guys just can't play Working Man from Rush and all these songs, which we were playing. They go, if you could do like one of the sets, like do some of the more poppier hits of the day. And I'm going, oh, we can try. And the next thing you know, we added like a Toto song and I know the hits of the time, right? With Toto, Walk the Line. What is it? Hold the Line.
On the line,
Hold
yeah.
the Line. That tune. And the Cars, just what I needed. And we added a couple of those tunes. And it kind of fit in with Foghat and a couple of tunes, And next thing you know, we had 4 45-minute sets and we worked all the time. That's really what it was all about, right? Your agents just want to keep you working. So if you could add a couple of tunes to your set list, the bars were like, oh, I'll book this band.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's all that was.
Be interested to get your take, Darrell. On we've had people on before that talk about original versus cover bands, and everybody's got a unique kind of, I guess, point of view on it. You spent a lot of time playing in cover bands, and then obviously Killer Dwarfs was a recording act and what have you. What's your I guess your both viewpoints on cover versus original, and what it means to be in that situation?
I think I know where you're going with this, because there's this big stigma thing with tribute bands. Some people are down on it. Oh, they're down on, they should be an original band and they're making a living off Aerosmith or off whatever, Led Zeppelin or whoever they're the tribute to, AC/DC or whatever. Well, the reality of it is music is music. If you're trying to be a musician and make a living, there's only a few ways you're gonna be able to make a living in this business. And being a tribute band is a quick way to make some money in the music business, because it's just a tough business to make money. And in this day and age, original acts are like, man, I feel so blessed that I started out in the 70s, because at least I had a shot, you know what I mean? But in retrospect, what you just said, Sean, it's crazy to think back on it, because everybody was a cover band in the 70s. We all started out as cover bands. And, I talked to my friends in LA and all that. Everybody plays cover tunes. It's not like a sin to start out playing cover tunes. That's how you get work. That's how you start out. That's how you build your craft. That's how you learn how to play.
That's right.
To tell you the truth. That's how you learn. By
You-
playing Rush and Aerosmith and Yes and whoever you can pull off, at your level of your musicianship at the time. So there's nothing wrong with playing cover tunes.
You answered that very similar to how, like, and basically it's like, if you're playing your own thing, you're Darrell in the Killer Dwarfs. If you're in a cover band,
Right.
you've got to be Neil Peart and John Bonham and Jeff Porcaro. And so you're right. My humble 2 cents is that it does help you, learn.
Well, the Sphinx Band was basically all covers. We wrote 4 original tunes that we played live out of 4 45-minute sets. And we toured for 4 years, almost 5 years as that band. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I cut my teeth on that band. Like playing all those songs are challenging. Jeff Porcaro from Toto. When I was learning that song, I'm going, I don't even think I can play it. It's like this weird shuffle down, right? You know what I mean? So you just try to get through this stuff. And I was singing it too.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't have any tapes of those days. So they were on cassettes and most of them got destroyed. But I mean, I'm sure it wasn't amazing. Like, I'm sure when we played that Toto tune, it was good enough that we got work and nobody noticed, but I probably wasn't playing all the ghost notes and all the chops that Jeff Porcaro plays. The guy's a master drummer, he was, right? He was phenomenal. But I remember learning that shuffle, and it was do 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 and it was 4 on the floor kind of kick drum, and it was really challenging. And I was playing Bastille Day and tunes like that back then too from Rush. We were playing some difficult Rush tunes back then from Caress of Steel, and
I love that album.
At least we played 6 Rush tunes at Sphinx Band. And I remember some of that Toto tune gave me a harder time than some of that Neil and Peart stuff, because it's I'm telling you, some of these shuffles and stuff. Well, you're a drummer, Sean, right?
Yep.
So you know what I'm talking about, right? Like some of the shuffles and stuff are a lot more difficult than playing fast Motorhead tunes.
I couldn't play a proper shuffle till I was about 21 years old. True story. And I was playing at the Misty Moon, and there was a drummer. His name was Ainsley. He used to play with a guy down here called Dutchy Mason.
I know Dutch Mason.
So I'm sitting there struggling through a shuffle, and on the break, Ainsley comes into the dressing room. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, and he showed me how to do it, and I practiced. But I mean, you're right. I mean, some of that stuff is very precise and it's all feel.
And they take it for granted, right? A lot of people just take it for granted. Oh, that's easy. Like ZZ Top, right?
Yep.
ZZ Top's a perfect band. I toured with ZZ Top, and Frank Beard. All these cool shuffles he played on those DeGuelo records and stuff is so cool. There's so much going on when Frank is playing those shuffles, man. It's all these ghost notes. It's all the ghost notes on the snare. It's all ghost note stuff that makes it great. And then there's metal shuffles, like April Wine, she's a roller, like heavy, lay into it, all bass drum, not so much snare and hat, right? That kind of shuffle, which is more ZZ Top. So, only drummers know what we're talking about right now.
That's fine. So I get it. I can pick up the pieces of it anyway. That's all right. I'm just a naughty bass player, but that's all right.
Yeah.
So back in your day, Darrell, so you would have been doing ththese cover tunes, and you've been throwing original stuff in, probably. Now, I know when Sean and I were playing years ago, it was like, if you were writing original songs, we used to sneak them in so that, that no one knew that they were original songs.
That's what we did. Yeah. You're right. We had 4 originals, and they were in the sets, the 4 sets, 1 in each set, or sometimes we double them up and do 2, and we'd announce it. Well, we wrote one, and people like, Led Zeppelin, give us a chance, let us play our tune. You know what I mean? It's so weird to look back on it, but it's all fun, and it's all part of rock and roll, man. It's all part of growing up. And, learning your craft. It's serious shit. If you're going to be a career musician, it's a giant feat. It's not easy to do. I feel very blessed. I've done it.
Talk to the audience about. So you came up in a time that I never had the opportunity to be in Toronto when the time you came up, and I did move up there at one point, and I get to talk to people about the old Gassers was like, and Larry's Hideaway and Rock and Roll Hell. But you came up in a time where there was really cool Canadian music coming out. Just talk about that a little bit, because you were right in the middle of that.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you're in it, you don't know you're in it. You know what I mean? Like when you're in it, you don't look at it like, oh, I'm in this masterful 80s time that's going to be talked about 40 years from now as the great decade of metal. You don't realize that, right? So, I mean, I just feel very fortunate that the Killer Dwarfs were an influential band of the time, especially being a Canadian band. And we got to tour the world. We just weren't stuck in Canada. We signed a worldwide record deal with Epic Records in New York City. We had an American record deal that was so hard to get, being a Canadian band. So, I mean, Russ and I met in 1981, and we were recording in 82, and, our first album was out in 83. So we were kind of the founding fathers of metal along with Motley Crue and
Yep.
I guess Anvil,
Yep.
from Canada. Anvil was with us at the time, and Canadian band wise, there was, Exciter. There was a couple of bands, Voivod. All these bands were coming out in the start of the 80s.
Great.
And so we didn't realize that we were going to be influential in the decade of metal, of hair metal, whatever you want to call it, right? So then when we started touring America and got signed to Epic, we hung around in LA a lot and became a part of that scene a little bit with Van Halen and all these bands. And we got to live that lifestyle. And lucky for us, I will be honest that we're more Canadian boys. We got a beer drinkers and Hellraiser types and fun loving kind of guys, and not so much druggy guys, not into the drugs. And that's why I'm probably still here at my age talking to you right now, because we never fell into that heroin and cocaine and all. We dabbled, a little bit of dabbling, it's around you all the time, but
For sure.
we didn't party like the Dirt, like Motley Crue, at that level. But we toured hard like the Crew, and we had some good times, man. There's no doubt about that.
Well, so what would you say is the pinnacle of your career now? Like, if you look back, the people that you opened up with, I mean, and you guys would have been, I'm sure, easily mistaken for a British new wave like metal band. Like at the time would have been Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. I mean, you sounded just like it was the same genre, right? So you toured the world. What was your highlight?
Well, you're right. You're right, because when our first album came out, Kerrang! Magazine compared us to Budgie, of all bands. Remember the band Budgie? They said this band is like Budgie. Isn't Budgie from Australia? I don't know. So you're right, 100%. That nobody knew we were from Canada. They pegged us as a New York band or a UK band. A band from. We were constantly telling people we're Canadian, for Christ's sake. We're from Toronto. Constantly correcting them, like interviewers. Constantly, they're going, "You guys are from England, right?" And I go, "No, we're not from England." But I can't really tell you a total pinnacle highlight. This band, we've been around 40 years. Our anniversary is coming up on New Year's Eve. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we decided we're not going to play a New Year's Eve show, because I'm hearing that this new, I call it Comic-Con virus, because it's kind of a cartoon to me. But anyway, the Comic-Con virus, I call it, the new one, right? The new strain, Comic-Con. It's I don't know what's going to happen with it, and I think they're pulling back. They're on some restrictions on venues again, on how many people can be at a venue. We need full capacity to play a show. We're not doing like half of the capacity. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, it's just, if we can't have a full house, then we don't want to do a show. That's sort of how we're feeling right now. So we're going to wait it out. So I think we're going to be doing our New Year's Eve show in April.
Okay.
Our anniversary New Year's Eve show in April in Toronto, and I just can't. I can't talk about where right now, but I'm pretty positive, unless this virus thing really gets stupid, we'll be doing that show in April. So we're just going to wait it out. So our next show is the Monsters of Rock Cruise.
Nice.
February 8th, I think it is. Yeah. So we're just waiting on that. That's our next show. We have a lot of shows booked in the new year, like a lot, like
Darrell,
30, 40.
Why don't we do this, guys? Why don't we take our first break? Now we do little breaks here now, Darrell. So we'll do like a couple segments here, make sure that everyone gets a chance to see it. We'll do little segues and what have you. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back. And you know what? This history you're talking about, it almost feels like someone should write a book about it. How's that
your segue? All right, that's very good, man. Yeah.
All right, so we're right back after this break.
Barstools